It's Feedback Friday. This is Art School Live, and I'm Eric Rhoads, and we are going to give feedback on paintings today. Let's show the paintings we're going to give feedback on right now. We have a lot of different variety, different styles, different mediums, and so we're going to do a little bit of critiquing on all of these and see what we can do to make them better. And we're also going to do something else. We won't show it right now, but we're going to show a before and after. We have somebody who we did a critique and they resubmitted after they made the changes, and we'll show the before and the after, and then we will see if there's anything else we can improve to make the new painting even better. And today we're going to be talking about a composition. We want to teach you composition, which is called the diagonal line composition. All right, you ready for it? Let's get this show going.
It's Art School Live with Eric Rhoads.
All right, this is Feedback Friday, Art School Live. We're here every weekday at 12 noon. We're teaching lessons for free from various artists on how to paint. And Feedback Fridays is feedback. Mondays is about marketing your art, marketing. Okay, so a critical part of learning to paint is getting feedback. And if you get feedback on your paintings, especially from somebody who is going to give you the truth, that's helpful. But of course, we want to be very positive. I think that feedback, it's important that we tell you what's wrong, but we also tell you what's right, what we like. And it's, the goal is not to beat up on anybody. The goal is not to show your power and to, we're going to really show them how good I am and how bad they are. No, we're not doing that. We don't go down that road. We really want to make this all about a learning experience. You will see more clearly through the eyes of others than you will your own when critiquing your painting. We will critique your paintings, of course, if you send them in, if we get a chance to. But please know that you will learn a lot from watching other paintings being critiqued because it's helpful. So I think what we're going to do is get right to this and jump right in and see what we can do today. But remember, always be kind, and always remember that everybody's at a different stage. So I might show a painting and you're going to go like, oh, why is he even showing that? That's so amateurish. Well, amateurs are where we all started, and we all need critiques, and sometimes they need it more than anybody else. Now, remember, I couldn't paint. I didn't have any natural talent. I don't think natural talent exists, but that's another story for another time. But you can do this. You can learn to paint, and we're here to show you how. So nothing personal. This is all an opinion, and we're not here to hurt anybody. So I will show you some feedback on some of these paintings. But in the meantime, if you want to submit yours, send it to streamlinedpublishing.com/feedback-Friday. Okay. And of course, if you make changes after the suggestions, then go ahead and give them to us and we'll do it. Okay. So now what we're going to do is head back in here and see if we can get this thing rolling. I'm going to pull up my tablet. Okay, we're going to start out with this landscape painting, and it's beautiful color version, but let's start first with the black and white. Let's move over to the tablet. Okay, so you can see a lot when you're looking at values. Values are the darks and lights, and we want to evaluate values and evaluate composition and so on. So we're going to start out by asking ourselves, how do we feel about this composition? Well, I like to go down dead center in the painting and ask myself, has somebody put something dead center in the case like this? No, and so that's good. Now what I like to do is what I call the tic-tac-toe board composition, where we divide things roughly in thirds, and then we're looking for where do things cross these intersections of lines. This ties in very closely to the golden mean, which is another composition technique. It's not exactly this, but this is a quick way to get to it. So if your focal point were these trees back here, then that would fit there. This tree here is not, if this tree were moved over a little bit, then this would be more on that focal point, but it's pretty close. So maybe just move it over just a little bit. And then we don't need one here quite frankly, you want one primary focal point, and then you can have secondary focal points. Now let's look at this from the standpoint of everything else that's worth looking at. It's kind of hard to tell what's happening here, but I think that what's happening is that this tree is lacking a little bit of form. So, and there's a little bit of form in these trees back here by putting some dark spots on them. But maybe what we could do is look for a way to bump up the form a little bit. And so maybe because the light is coming from here, maybe we just get a nice dark in here and get the form on this tree a little bit more defined. So that's probably a little too dark, but the idea is that you want to move from dark to a little bit lighter to a little bit lighter. Now you've got form in each of these bubbles. I call them bubbles. And the idea is you want to create that sense of form in here too, and then create a little sense of form there, and then it gets lighter and lighter, and it will help it. So I like to have a nice dark value up front. So let's just go back here to where I started. I like to have a nice dark value up front. And so I'm going to put some on this, and I'm going to probably darken this shadow. Now that I don't want that shadow to be quite as dark, but I'm going to darken that shadow and get some really nice contrast in here. And what I would probably do also is I might put another shadow in here. And the reason being is that I want to have something that's taking my eye out of the foreground. And so you could, and someone would assume there's another tree or a couple other trees over here. So you get some good dark values in the front. Now these dark values in the back are probably too dark. So I would probably lighten them up just a little bit so that they're not quite as dark as the ones in the front. Actually, those are probably about right. Now the other thing we've got here is we have 3 soldiers, and this is it's pretty close, and I think these 2 are at the same height. I would move one up a little higher, and then this one's lower, and then this one's there. So just keep that in mind. And you might even make these a little smaller so that they go back in the distance a little bit more, like that. And also, be careful not to just line things up perfectly, because you want things to look a little random. Now, the values on the front, on the front plane are pretty good. I'd get some dark values in and around your road, and be careful about sharp lines on that road. Roads typically have, they're a little jaggedy, and so look for an opportunity to do that. Let's go to the color version now and see what we can see in the color version, because color makes everything different. Rana from New Mexico, this is really pretty. Congratulations. Let me point out a couple things, Rana, that you've done well. First off, you've done a really good job on the light in the front of the painting. Nice light in here. Pretty good light in here. It's getting a little darker back here, which is okay. You've pumped up some nice light on one of these trees, and you can clearly see the direction of light, which is on these trees. So if we go back and we change the focal point on this just a little bit, then we would move that tree over just a touch, but we don't need to do that. And I think you've taken the tree off the top of the painting, which is good, because a lot of people would end it right here, and you make it feel bigger by taking it off the top of the painting and even off the side of the painting, which is good. So that's good. Your colors in here, you've got a lot of purples and purpley blues in here. I use purples and blues all the time, but you want to be careful, because purples and blues recede. The place to put purples and blues is more in these, and then of course back in here. Now, what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a bright day, and so let's just play with this just a little bit. I'm going to start out. I'm going to use kind of a brownish color on this trunk and get this trunk stated a little bit, and get a couple of good solid lines in here in this trunk, just to help it read a little bit. help those lines read a little bit. And then what I'm going to do, because you've got strong light coming from the side, I'm going to pump up the light on the side of this tree just a little bit so that it feels like light. Now that's probably not exactly the right color. Maybe we go to a color like this instead. And now what's happening is I can put some little spots of light in there, and you can create some contrast so that your tree feels like it's in light. And then you can go for a middle form, middle value in here, and then maybe even a little darker here with, you know, some browns on it or something. So it creates that sense of roundness, right? See how that works? Now, the other thing I would do is I would look for a way to get these forms a little darker in here. So darken up some of this. This looks like a pastel piece. I love pastel. So darken that up just a little bit. Maybe get your darks here. And I'd look for wherever you see where dark meets light or where there's high contrast. This is an opportunity to put a little indication of some leaves. You don't have to put them everywhere, but if you see a chance, because trees don't go like this, they go like this. You know, they're all over the place. And so this is a chance to put a little bit of other stuff in there. And then, you know, so get your darks in here so that you're creating a good sense of darks, and that will help create that sense of value. And then you go in here and you pump up your middle value, and then you can pump up your side, your brighter value on that green. And I like to be careful when you're painting greens. I like to put a little red in my greens. A little hard to do this in this iPad scenario, but maybe something like that. Maybe that would be a little bit lighter, and then you can get that in there. Be careful with greens, because greens can get real garish. Now, the other thing I would probably do on this, just because, and you've done a good job, but I would really pump up the light in here. Look for a way to really make that strong so it really reads like light. All of a sudden, that makes your shadow feel darker already. But I would look for shadows tend to be pretty blue. They can be warm as well, depending on the light. But I would look for a way to find a way to get that shadow in there. Now, I'm just going to continue with this, even though we should be done. Get a little darkness on the edge of this to help the light go there. And that you're taking me back to these trees. And if you're going to take me somewhere, take me to something that's going to delight the eye. So this is a chance for you to really, you know, take me in here and make a focal point here and pump up the light here on these two trees. I wouldn't go too nuts on the third one, because you want your focal point, and maybe a spot of light here and there. And then the only other thing I would do is I would look at this back mountain, and I might make that a little bit lighter, maybe a lighter blue. Maybe that's what you saw. And then I would consider getting a little bit of light into that sky, because you know, you want a nice bright sky. And so if you get some light against that mountain or those trees, and it doesn't have to be yellow, you know, it could be green, it could be blue, it could be a warm blue, you know, but just by doing that, you're sending the message, this is a really sunny day, and that mountain all of a sudden stands out. The other thing I like to do is I like to take a touch of blue and I like to put it right back in here somewhere. That's a little sharp, but what that does is that kind of creates the sense of distance in there, just right there. And that could be a lake, and you could probably get a little of this blue on your water as well. So that, you know, that it has to be everywhere, but it helps pump it up. See how that changes it? All right, so we're going to go, what are we going to do next here? What's next? Okay, we have a lovely portrait of a little girl. This is really well done. This is Nova from Tennessee. Congrats, Nova. This is really lovely. Okay, so I think you've done a really great job on the execution of this. Portraits are a little harder on composition, but let's just play that game anyway and see what happens. So you got your composition, and you've got this eye kind of dead center, right? And that's pretty close to your composition being dead center. So let's look at what would happen if we were to tic-tac-toe board this. What would we do? Well, we might move the whole head over so that, maybe the head is focused in here, eyes in here a little bit more. And that might make it a little more interesting. Also, you like to give a little bit of space. What's she looking at in there? And so that would be a good thing. I'm having a hard time finding anything wrong with this. I like the softness of the shoulders. I like the way you've softened the hat in the background. I think the jewels are nice. It kind of makes it fun. And you've got a touch of light, a touch of light on her here. So I think that's all pretty good. I would probably, if I had to pick something, I would probably look for a way that I could maybe just enhance where the dark is. So the light is coming from here. So I would probably look for a way to maybe get this a little darker in here. So and get these darks stated in a little bit more so that you have a sense of form. And so let's create a little form in this hat and see if we can do that. We're going to get these shadows in there stated a little bit more. We're going to come in here and create a little bit more middle value form, and then we're going to lighten it up just a little bit more. And that's just going to help us get some form in there. And then, what you can do is crank up the light on this side of the form just a little bit more. I wouldn't go pure white, but, just create. Now it's a soft surface, so you've got to make sure that your edges are really fuzzy and things feel soft. You don't want them to be too sharp in there. And that will help it. So just right there, you've got a nice middle value in here. So that's good. And then I would probably look for an opportunity to just, do the same thing in here, get a little bit more dark in here and maybe in here, just to really enhance that form just a little bit. And you got to be really careful because it's very delicate, but look for a chance to get some good darks stated, and that will help your form a lot. And other than that, I think, it's really very nice. I would probably go a little darker on this neck down here. And also that's going to give nice contrast to that earring, which is kind of nice. So that's what I do there. Let's look at the color version now. I like it. I like it a lot. I think it's really nice, Nova. So congrats on this. Again, there's not much I would do, but I would probably look for, try to figure out what would be a nice dark variation on this pink. And that's probably a little bit too dark, but maybe a little purpley in here, and then look for a way to just kind of change the values a little like I did before, and get in here and get that in, and then look for a way to pump up maybe the light on this end of it, and maybe in here. And then again, I don't have the right colors in here probably, but something like this so that it creates form, and then you can kind of make it go a little bit darker and grayer as it goes back here. Okay, so that's probably more accurate in here. That gives it a little bit of form. And again, going into the face, I would probably pick up some of these darks in here and just darken them up just slightly, ever so slightly. Get some nice darks around those eyes. The other thing is that eyes, typically, if you're doing eyes, get those eyes nice and soft. Especially, you don't necessarily need, that's probably a little, let's undo that one. Let's just get these just softened up just a touch, and it can make a difference in how it feels. Just soften that up, and maybe soften up the edges. Look for your edges. Look for ways that you can have edges that soften up. That if you soften up the back edge over here and in here, it's going to feel like it's going into the distance a little bit. So don't make everything sharp. And then I'd probably darken this hair back here just a little bit, just because it's in shadow. and you know it's hair. And if you want to give that sense of the blondness or whatever, then maybe, you know, you put a little touch on a little tiny strand on it somewhere and kind of, whoops, let's go back and, you know, kind of blend that in somewhere so that it's, you know, not too stark. Anyway, that's, you know, portraits is not my biggest specialty, but I think you've done a beautiful job on this. And so really talk to somebody who's a portrait person. They can help you a lot. What's next? Okay, we have a lovely pastel painting, and Pastel Live is coming up, by the way. You guys would love that. So let's go into this black and white version of this, if I can get it to open. All right, so the first thing that is drawing my attention is it's very, very busy. And Ray Smith from Nova Scotia, I love the fact that it's colorful and it's energetic, and it's got you've got a lot of good dark and light values, but it feels pretty busy to me. And let's first check composition, then we'll talk about busyness. So what's happening here is you got your primary spot, your spot of light right in there, and that's drawing the eye. So let's ask ourselves what would happen if we changed the composition a little bit. So what if we made the composition like this, put that spot, I would either lower your horizon. This is kind of where your horizon is. I'd probably lower your horizon to here, put that spot here, then you can emphasize the trees. Or the other option is to raise the horizon, get that spot in here, and then raise your trees and increase your path. Excuse me. All right, so if we look at the values, you've got some dark values up in here, you got dark values in here and here and here and here, and the darkest values are kind of in here, but this one's pretty dark. Maybe a tree far forward. It's a little hard to tell in the black and white version, but let's just go in and play the values game a little bit. So I would look for an opportunity, get a good, I'm covering your signature, value in here, and get something stated, you know, good shadow across here, and look for some opportunities for some smooth spots because of all the busyness, because you've got all these little spots. So look for some chances to do smooth. The other thing is be careful not to lead the eye out, right? So what you can do is look for, you know, you can put a bush here, or you can just have that go like that. Be careful about things near the edge. You want to make sure that you're not leading the eye out. Okay, so all these little white spots over here in the edge are kind of leading the eye out. So maybe this is a good place for a nice big shape. You've got a lot of sky holes in there, and sky holes are important, but if you put too many in, it's going to get very busy. So see how just having a nice big shape here of this tree really helps calm things down. And you've got a lot of trees in the background. Oops, a lot of trees in the background here, and they're looking pretty good, but you know, you might just add a little bit more activity here, just so it feels like it's more in the woods. And then I would probably look for an opportunity to kind of soften this background a little bit, because it's drawing a lot of busyness to the eye. So yeah, it depends on where you want to draw the eye. All of this little mushy stuff on the side, all of these little spots, I'd rather see you take the side of that pastel and make one big swatch. We're going to go to the color version of this now, though. I love the colors in this. They're really bright and vibrant. But you know what happens is if this is our focal point area right over here, then that's where you want your color, you want your contrast, you want your lights, your darks. And I don't know if that's intended to be the focal point, but that's where my eye goes because of that bright there. It's going there instead of going here, and instead of going here. And so be careful where you put your brights. Now, what you might want to do is if you wanted this over here to be your focal point, then what you might want to do is look for an opportunity to kind of mute this back over here. Let's see if we can figure out how to do that. So, oops, all I'm doing is making a mess. So let's see, maybe, if we mute this back just a little bit in here, then now my eye's not getting drawn all the way back into there. Now you've got sky holes in there too. And then, maybe you take your path in a little bit more, but you're not drawing the eye too much there. What I would, again, be careful about are these spots around the edges where you're drawing the eye out. And so look for ways to kind of reduce this busyness in here and this busyness in here by, bigger shapes. You've got some bigger shapes in here and here. And then you've got a lot of busyness on the road. That might be a good opportunity to get, take these same colors, but, just try to make it a little less busy. And I know you're seeing speckled light and it's crazy. Been there, done that, but look for chances to, to not make it too overly crazy. Now, the other thing is I like to have, remember we talked about stating a good dark in the front. So I would kind of look for an excuse to have a nice shadow in here, keep it dark in this front somehow. The shadow's coming across there, get some darks in here. And you don't need too many of these to kind of get the point. So if you do too many, it's going to be crazy. But and then when you're doing light, pump up that light, make that light warm, right? So this light's pretty warm in here. So, make that feel like it's in light. You could even make that warmer by, putting a little color in it. Maybe that's too much color, but just a little bit of color will make it see how that feels like it's light now. And then just again, on these spots on the side, you want they feel like they're in light, but don't take it too far off. And then if you wanted this to be your focal point here, then look for an opportunity to really pump up the contrast there. So that would be like you've got a nice dark here. So get a nice dark in here right around all of this so that it just makes this stand out even more. And then those colors really pop in there. You can still put some stuff in this area, but look for ways to make those colors pop. And then I would also look for ways to kind of make this not quite so prevalent in the front here, so off this edge. And maybe, I can't tell where the light is coming from. It may be coming straight overhead, but maybe this is an opportunity to create a little form in here and, in some of these areas where you just need to kind of mute it back. But and then be careful about sky holes. Now, if you want to show that light, that light, I'm trying to match that, but then try to keep it so it's not too busy, right? You want to just give it that's probably a little bit dark, but give it a sense of now you've got kind of a triangle going into a triangle. So that's kind of nice, but look for ways to not make this, like crazy, because that just draws the eye. You're a lot better off and by the way, sky holes typically would be a little bit darker than your sky. So look for a chance to put a sky hole into, I like strategic places like in between branches, but you don't need very many of them to give the idea that you're there. Okay. Anyway, nice job on that, Ray Smith. Now, what do we have next? We have, we have this colorful landscape, and this is from 𝗙𝗏𝗄 in Texas. All right, 𝗙𝗏𝗄. Love Texas. Hook 'em horns. Okay. All right, we'll do composition, and then we'll do values, and then we'll see what this looks like. So compositionally, down the middle, 𝗙𝗏𝗄, what you've done here is you've basically put your horizon, it's so close to the middle here that your horizon's in the middle. And we tend to find that that we've all been trained to put things in the middle, but that tends to make things a little bit less exciting. So if you could put the horizon up a little higher, that would probably help it, or put your horizon a little lower. That could help it. Your values, this is what I would call a high key painting. And that's a nice thing to have. That means it's got a lot of light in it. But you've got you've got all your dark values over here and 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 over here, but there's no dark values in the front. And so you might ask yourself, could I get some darks up front so that now the darks in the back are going to recede a little bit, you know? So this could be in shadow a little bit in here, and just look for an opportunity to do that. And then the darks get a little less dark as you go back, you know, in here, and then maybe a little bit less over here, and then a little bit less over here, you know, and darker and bluer typically. Now we're not doing color right now. I would think this dark here might be a little dark, but it's kind of hard to tell. I would probably though look for an opportunity to pump up this tree just a little bit more, just to make it stand out in contrast. Now we don't really know where the composition is going to lie here, so let's just do the composition. So tic-tac-toe board, right? So this part of the river is getting your composition. But if you move this tree over here, so this tree kind of goes up in here, and then maybe move your spot of light over, that might increase your composition. Now, 𝗙𝗵𝗴𝗆, this is really bright and lovely. And, you know, when we see these bright greens, we tend to want to paint them, and I get that. But what happens is that sometimes if you have too many brights, then you don't know where to look. So I'm going to look at this from a standpoint of taking what you've done here and see if we can improve it. We got a bright spot over here. It's taking my eye out of the painting. And even though I know what you're trying to accomplish, because I know that's saying, hey, there's light over there, you know, might just look for a way to mute that back a little bit. I would take your distance in here and maybe blue that up just a little bit, so that, whoops, that didn't do it, did it? Blue this up just a little bit back here, and that will give you a little more contrast. It's a little bluer and it's a little lighter, and it still reads. Now you can still put some spots of green in there, but it just helps read the distance. Now I can't really tell what's going on there, but that just, see, you could say that's a mountain back there or something like that, I suppose. Now, the other thing is, if you don't do that, what's happening is all of a sudden this light's not popping out very much. But if you do it, that light pops out more. If that's where you want the light to be, it looks like you want the light to be here. And if that's where you want your composition to be, then what you want to do is increase your contrast so that you've got some good darks around your light, so your light stands out even more. And you know, you can vary that, look for ways to make that feel a little darker in there so that pops, and that'll help that pop. And then I would just not worry about a bright spot here because it's not lending anything. And this is okay here because it's muted back, so you can mute some things back. But if you want some contrast, look for a way to get contrast in there. Now, the other thing is, I guess the light is coming from this direction over here. And so if that's the case, maybe we pump a little tiny bit of light on that tree. And so, you know, maybe you show that a little bit of the light hitting that tree in a couple of spots. You've kind of done that. And so that'll do that. And maybe get that tree a little darker in here. And then that'll give it, the trees are basically silhouettes most of the time, and that'll help it stand out. And then you've got a little bit of brown back in here. I think I would probably consider bluing that up just a little bit, or maybe just making that feel like it's receding a little bit, and that just will help it feel like it's going back, right? But I think overall, and then I would, maybe move this composition line so that you're somewhere this is happening over here a little bit more. Okay. Now, if you want, you can pump up light back there, but I would really look for a chance to mute this down in here, because it's all it's doing is kind of not serving you. Now, the other thing is I'd look for, I was just looking at a Mark Boge's painting the other day, and it was so beautiful. And what he does is he's muting all this stuff, right? And he's putting little touches of light on it, but not a lot, because he wants to draw the eye into here, right? So he's, by doing something like that, he's drawing the eye there. He's even muting the background, over in here, so that it's not drawing quite so much attention. That way, everything that's drawing the attention is in his focal point area. I'd even kind of look for muting that back a little bit back there, but that's not the right color. Anyway, very nice job on this. Let's see you take another shot at it, and we'll see what's happening. Next, we have Mickey Mouse. Now, I've never in my life painted or critiqued a Mickey Mouse. When I first see this, I look at it and I say, okay, this is a still life of some glass figurines. We happen to have the, let's go ahead to the iPad. We have the actual image here. And I want to point something out on this, if I may, just to give you guys an idea. The artist put up a tray back here to make sure that she created a background. I don't know who the artist is. We'll find out in a minute. And that creates a nice dark. What you can do is you can build a shadow box, right? And the shadow box would block out the light coming from the side, and then you can put a light in the top, and then you can control the light, because what's happening here is mostly your light is coming from this source, but then you got light coming over here from this source. It just makes it hard, because it's like, is there light here, or is there light here? Is there light here? And then the figurines are where it's really going to be a problem. So let's look at the painting from a black and white standpoint first. I think that Julie Fisher, congrats for having the courage to do this. We're going to look at composition. We're going to go dead center and nothing dead center, and that's a good thing, because we don't really want that. So next we're going to look at tic-tac-toe board and say we're looking for one of these focal points. Well, this is clearly a focal point, and you've done a pretty good job. I mean, you might move your mice so their kissing is taking place right in this particular area, but then you'd have to move your vase over as well, because I like the way that you've placed the mouse over the vase here, right? You've overlapped it. And you've done a good job of overlapping things. I would move this flower so it's overlapping as well, so it's not by itself. And then I would look at their values. And so the question about values here is, so we've got, a nice dark background. We've got dark on Mickey and Minnie. And again, because I don't know where the light's coming from, but you want to look for a way to create a little bit more form in here. And that's because what's happening is you've got light coming from a lot of different directions. So if you can look for ways to create some form, that's going to make a big difference in Mickey and Minnie. And of course, because they're glass figurines, you've got to make sure you make them look reflective. And that's usually by looking for a spot where you can put a spot of white, pure white, where it's on, so it looks like it's glass. That'll make a difference. As far as your painting, I think that again, we're fighting this issue of light. So, because we don't know where the light's coming from, but if we wanted the light to be coming from this direction, then we're going to pump this dark up in here, and we're going to get some shadows in here, get some, look for an excuse to get some darks in here. And then, darks in the background over here a little bit. And then what will happen is you take this dark and create this form, it'll make a difference. So that'll make it read like more light. Now this, I think, might be a glass vase. I mean, clear glass. It's hard to tell in this black and white. And then we're going to look for an opportunity to really pump up the light on this edge over here and over here. So let's look at the color version, because I can't really figure this out. All right. So what's happening here, Julie? Nice job on this. Really, really good attempt. So remember what we're going to do here. We're going to move this flower into here. We're going to make the light come from one direction. So we're going to pump up. It looks like it's a clear vase. And so when you're painting something clear, just pay very close attention to the reflections, because there's usually a lot of reflections. And so you've got to have, something that's going to make it feel like glass, and that's going to be, light reflections. And they're probably, if we looked back at the reference photo, so we see there's a reflection of a window in here, right? And a reflection here and a reflection here. So I'm not going to have the benefit of looking at that, so I'm going to have to fake it. So there's a reflection in here somewhere, and there's a reflection in here of a window, which is nice. I like that. And then if I remember correctly, this was kind of blue in here and reflecting in here. We're going to go back to that reference photo again and see that. Yeah, so we've got that blue, and so you've got a streak of light coming down here. And so oftentimes you don't see the interior of the vase, you see the reflections. And so you've got something here, and that's helping you create form. Then you've got your light that you pump up on here. And again, look for an opportunity. And a clear vase is going to be a little tough, but look for an opportunity to get these darks a little bit darker in here. And then, you put in whatever is in here. Now, the other thing I would do here, Julie, you've got really several focal points. Let me point them out to you. You have Mickey and Minnie, you have this flower, you have this vase, you have these flowers, and they're all drawing attention. And then you have the little butterflies. All right, so what if we looked for a way that we could mute some of this? So if you want your attention to be Mickey and Minnie, then mute back all of these other flowers. So look for an opportunity to just make them a little darker. That's too dark. Let's go in here, and they can be darker and softer. And we're just going to mute them back a little bit, because they're not as important to us, because we want everything to be kind of softer and drawing attention. It's going to be a rose, but we want to just make everything softer so that we're drawing attention to Mickey and Minnie, and maybe put a butterfly right on Minnie's head here or something like that, or right over here, so that we have that going on. But this ribbon is drawing a lot of attention too, so I would mute that back. You have to look for the things that are drawing all the attention. So again, maybe mute the color of this thing back just a little bit, move it over so your attention is there. But if we wanted to make the attention on the flowers, then what we would probably do is we'd mute back Mickey and Minnie a little bit, so that they're not quite as standing out quite as much, and maybe look for a way to make them a little less prominent. And then I would focus on one particular flower, and I'd probably I'd create one right in here, and I'd really pump up the light and the contrast on this flower here, and then have these others kind of mute back. The way to paint a flower, by the way, we've got a lot of painting flower videos, is you get your foundation shapes in first, and before you start putting your strokes on, and that way you're creating the sense of form in your flowers. And then same thing with lighter flowers. You're getting your shadow shapes in first, and then you go in and you put your window dressing, which is your petals and things. And also be careful on petals. Typically petals are really soft, and so look for ways to sharpen edges on that. So there's a couple of ways we could attack that. Anyway, I would just kind of look for ways to mute all this back, because I think this is all about Mickey and Minnie. And so make this one rose and Mickey and Minnie your focal point, and that'll stand out. And everything else just needs to blend and be less prominent, because you can't have everything in focus. CW Monday says you can only have a star, you can have a supporting cast, and that's what these things are. And then you can have the extras. So you want to make sure that you've got something that's really not drawing the eye too much, and that will be. This is hard. This is a hard one to do. Okay, nice job on that. Next we have, this is really pretty. Okay, now this is from Gloria Gauss in Missouri. Gloria, congratulations. I would say this is pretty high key painting, and it's lovely. It's really, really nice. It's got a really beautiful, peaceful feeling to it. And where's the darkest dark in this painting? Well, ask yourself this question. I would say there's little spots of dark in here, a little bit in here, but really your darkest dark is probably other than that there. And so what I would do is I would look for an opportunity. Again, it's always the same things. Look for an opportunity, get some shadow in here, get some darkness in some of these weed spots in here, so that it's a little darker, so that when you put your next dark in, your next dark is over here, it's not as dark. And when you put your next dark in, it's over here and it's not as dark. And, you know, look for ways to create form. That way you're not making these your darkest darks over here. The other thing is where's your light? And your light is here, it's here, it's here, it's here, it's here, it's here. And of course in the sky. Where do you want the light to go? Well, let's look at composition and see what composition does here first before we do that. Dead center, nothing there. That's a good thing. Tic-tac-toe board, nothing here. A little spot there, that's good. This is kind of a focal point because of the valley. This is kind of a focal point because the trees don't need anything here. I would ask yourself, could I really enhance this focal point in here? And so what I might do is I might really pump up my light. Let's see, if I want to draw the attention in here, I might really pump up my light into here and pump up the light on these trees. And then I would, you know, maybe make this all kind of point into this, make everything kind of point to here. And then I would kind of look for an opportunity to kind of mute some of this stuff back, because then it's going to draw the eye a little bit more if you have that. And you've got some lights in here, and that's okay. This is nice. It's really lovely. But if you want to put that as your focal point. Now let's go to the color version and see what that has to do with. I love the colors on this, and the colors change a lot of this, but I would re-emphasize this. To me, the brightest thing, the first thing that I'm seeing is that there. And if you wanted that to be your focal point, then I'd put it here, right? Because you've got things there. And by the way, this can be all about that spot there. You know, so if you just put, let's see, you put that spot here instead, and you make it kind of prominent, get some darks on the other side of this, like you've done. And then, you know, to pump up the brightness on this edge, if I can figure out how to do that, get your brightness in here. And now this kind of helps serve that focal point, which is right here. Now, that's one way to look at it. But again, I think the weeds are kind of supporting what's going on here. And I think this is really lovely. So I would just look for an opportunity to pump up my light, and I'd pump it up as much as possible. Now, light is better when there's contrast, right? So if you pump up your light in here, and you pump up the light on these trees, and you kind of pump up the light in this field back here a little bit, that's going to make my eye go back there. And then I would just look for a way to kind of mute some of this back a little bit more. I like the colors. The colors are really lovely. But if you want this to stand out, then you look for a way to make it stand out, and that's by muting the other things. And you could kind of mute some of this grass in here a little bit more, and be careful about taking the eye out. So, you know, if you want, you just get a little more contrasty in here. Let's see if I can get this. So I would look for an opportunity, maybe mute some of this back in here, not necessarily these colors, but keep your light going to the light. So you've got this really nice light in here, And so look for an opportunity, take this light in here and lead my eye back into here, and then take this light and lead my eye back into here, and then maybe even look for a chance to lead my eye into, a bright spot, a river or something back in here, or you have kind of a nice color on this mountain back here. So maybe you just look for a way to brighten that up just a little bit. But you're taking the eye through nicely there. I like these trees here. I like them. I think these could be a little darker in here. Again, just to support what you're trying to do here. And these back here could be darker still, but bluer, right? Because of the distance. And purples and greens, purples work really well with greens. And so that might be a little dark. We could probably make that a little lighter there. And then you can make this, if you wanted to, you could make these in here. And I wouldn't put too much focus on too much light until you get where you really want the light to be. And that is, pump it up in your focal point. And then everything else is supporting, kind of taking you into that place. This is really nice, Gloria. I'm being picky. Okay, what do we have next? Okay, we have before and after. So this is the painting that was submitted before, and I made some suggestions, and this is Debbie from Newberry. And so let me just pull up what Debbie did. And so I don't remember when I did this critique, but I do remember doing it, and I don't remember what I said. But if I were to look at this today, I'd say tic-tac-toe board, right? Focal points here, 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 or here. And what I felt like was happening is my eye was going here, my eye was going here. And so I told Debbie to try to fix that. So let's see what Debbie came up with. And so Debbie changed it considerably. Now, I can't tell if this is a winter scene or a summer scene because this looks like snow to me, but good job, Debbie. What Debbie did is she basically put her focus and emphasis on this tree, the water over here, and she did, let's see, let's go back to the original. I also told her, I'm pretty sure that this area back here was a little busy and needed to be bluer and purpler. And so that's exactly what she did there, is she listened. Good job. It's nice when people listen. Nice big shape in here, nice and purple, and really good job on that, Debbie. She muted these trees back considerably. Nice job on that. And she's got little touches of light just on the edges that especially fall into here. Now, I can't tell if that's snow or if that's rocks or if it's something else. So I think we need to work on that. But I think good job. Here's what I'm going to take this to the next level, Debbie. I want you to take this a little further. Let's just assume this is not a snow painting, but if it is, let me know. And then, so maybe and these are trees, maybe you're pumping up the light on these trees a little bit, especially here in the focal point. and then really putting emphasis on that. And then we're going to mute back kind of all this other stuff because it's not as important as the focal point right there. Maybe you put a little touch of that light on there and keep that there. The other thing is we have rocks over here, and these rocks are not as in shadow as the rest of this. And so I would probably look for an opportunity. Let's just bump up the shadow just a little bit more. And this is a green river, so maybe we'll enhance the screen river just a little bit darker and get these greens in here a little darker. And that's nice. I think that helps, and getting the greens, moving the river, that's good. And so just getting this so it's not so it creates more contrast. And then these rocks in the front, well, they are they probably need to be in shadow just a little bit more. So let's just maybe mute them back just a little bit more, because spots of light are drawing attention. We want to draw attention over here. What I would do over here is I would pump up the light on these rocks in here, pump up the light and the contrast on these rocks so that you're really drawing attention to the rocks over here, assuming they're rocks, right? And then I would look for a chance to really enhance this spot in here, take my eye back, and maybe even look for a chance to do something in the distance just to try kind of draw me in. I would probably move this tree back. If we've got purple back here, let's see if we can figure out what this color is. I'm going to blue that up just a little bit more, but let's get rid of that branch entirely so that we can focus this back here in the distance. So this branch, it's there, it's there. Nice job on these trees, by the way, and the whole sense of that. Get rid of that light spot back there. Now what you can do is go back here and create, a bright spot in the distance that's kind of very focal pointy, and it's taking me in. Or if you want, you can take the river out of the picture. So you could take the river and go, it's like going back there. And, you could even take it back, depending on, what the scene is. And that way you're creating some focal point areas there. That's probably a little bit much, but just to give you a hint of some of the things that you could do. But I like it. Nice job on that. Okay, so we're going to teach you a composition. We have one more, right? We do have one more. We have this one. Oh, we did that one. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So I want to point this picture out. I saw this picture online this morning, and I loved it. And I can't tell you the name of the artist. It's a deceased artist, but I wanted to point out something in this picture that I thought was so wonderful, because it's a really great picture to learn from. What have we got here? First off, we have, let me pull up my red. We have a nice dark silhouette. Whoa. We have a nice dark silhouette right in here. And really, if you look at this painting from a focal point standpoint, this is a little down below. It's still a focal point, and that's okay, because the artist has put the horizon down really low. And so maybe the artist could have moved it here, but I think it's fine there. Quite frankly, who am I to judge an artist like this? It's a brilliant artist. But notice how dark the darks are in here. And that's good. And that these darks are not as dark, and these darks are not as dark, and so on. So that's really good. But the other thing that you can learn from this is what's called atmospheric perspective, right? You know instinctively that this dark tree is the same darkness as this one, is the same darkness as this one, is the same darkness as these, is the same darkness as that. You know that they're dark green trees, but yet the artist made your eye get fooled. This one is less light than this one. This one is lighter than this one. This one is lighter than this one. If you look right here at these edges, they've got a dark edge against the light, you got a dark edge against the light, got a dark edge against the light. Same thing here, same thing here, same thing here. And they put a little spot of light on that to create a sense of light in there, but not much, and a little spot of light in there. So this is a really great lesson in atmospheric perspective. The other thing is there's a tree back in here, and there's a mountain back here, another tree back here. And look how soft they are. They're barely visible, just maybe one value change difference, and very light, but also they've really softened the edges on everything. And you notice this is a sharper edge. It's a little softer, a little softer, a little softer still. And these are just so beautiful. Nice job on reflections. But let's talk about compositions. Okay, this composition could be considered an L composition. So that's one approach. But what I like is the fact that this is a diagonal. Really, my eye is going from here all the way to here. It's taking me in here first, but then I'm seeing this diagonal. And a diagonal composition can be a powerful thing, because diagonals create interesting paintings. And so look for an opportunity. So if we were doing a diagonal, the same kind of a thing might be a diagonal mountain, right? And so, you know, you might have another mountain here, but the primary is a diagonal. So you've got, you know, you got a big mountain in here, and maybe you have a foreground mountain in here, and maybe a little bit in here. And then, you know, maybe you've got some clouds, but the primary shape is this big diagonal. And that's really refreshing. Or it could be the opposite. It could be a diagonal. It might be a big cliff, you know, the Grand Canyon or something. And then, you know, a little something here, but a nice diagonal shape. And I did a painting the other day where I put a lot of diagonals in the reflection area, and it just made the painting much more exciting than, you know, than flat reflection. So that was fun. So look for an opportunity to do diagonals as well. Okay, we're done. So here we go. This has been Art School Live, and this has been Feedback Friday. We try to do this every Friday. We have a free gift for you if you pull that up. The free gift is 97 Incredible Art Secrets. It's a free video. It's got 97 segments in it. It's a couple hours long, and it's samples of some of the videos we've created at painttube.tv. And this is yours free. You can watch it instantly. Just go to 97artsecrets.com/free, and you can watch it instantly. Or if you want the DVD, then you can pay the shipping for the DVD. We'll send that right out to you. Okay. Also, I'd like to remind you guys, you can subscribe to this program. Just go to YouTube and look up Art School Live and hit the subscribe button. We would love it if you do that. Also, if you hit the little bell, you'll get notified when we go live, and that's always helpful. Last but not least, we have some events coming up, and I'll tell you about those real quickly. We have Pastel Live coming up in September, and a great way to get out of your box is to learn pastel. Pastel, if you're a beginner or if you've never painted, pastel is a perfect way to start, because you don't have to learn how to mix colors with a brush or with a palette knife. You mix them kind of like you're coloring. And so we've got some of the world's leading experts on Pastel Live. That's coming up in September. It's online, so you can watch from your couch or your studio or your bed and enjoy it. You don't have to get on an airplane. And then after that, we have coming up Realism Live, which is in November. Similar type thing, but all realistic subjects, portraits, figures, a lot of those, a lot of landscapes, and a lot of still life, flowers, etc. And then we have Watercolor Live coming up in January, the world's largest online art conference for art. And we have some more people that we're adding to this that we'll be announcing soon, but we've already got some big rock stars in there, some of the biggest painters in the world, like Thomas Schaller and 𝗙𝗵𝗴𝗆 and others. So check that out. And last but not least, we announced this week Acrylic Live is coming up in March, and we had a huge number of people sign up for that. A very high percentage of the people that were viewing our reveal signed up for Acrylic Live, so that's going to be fun. And then, of course, we have Plein Air Live coming up as well in November next year, so that's a whole year away. But that's what we've got for you, and the whole goal here is to teach you to paint, to help you have the courage to paint. If you look up at 5 of these YouTube videos, we've been doing them for years, every weekday, continuously since COVID began. If you study any 5 of the videos, drawing videos, watercolor videos, painting videos, they will give you the courage to convince you that you can do this, you can paint. So watch any 5 videos. And of course, if you want marketing, watch Marketing Monday on Art School Live. Or if you want to see feedback, you know, we have all of these different things going on. Hey, thank you for tuning in. It's Friday. I'm going to take the rest of the day off and go painting. It's raining right now, but I think it's going to clear up. So let's hope that changes. Thank you for being here. I'm Eric Rhoads from Fine Art Connoisseur, Plein Air Magazine, and among other things. Take care. Bye-bye.